Hi Homeworthy, I'm Alexis. Welcome to our Kentucky home. I'm so excited to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Alexis Cosinuke. I am an interior designer and content creator, and welcome to my home in Lexington, Kentucky. We purchased this house right at the beginning of COVID, and it was a crazy housing market when we did. It was really, really hard to find a home. This house needed a renovation in every single room. It was totally outdated, but I could see potential. My husband could not, but I told him to just have faith. And so over the last 4 years, I've worked really hard on infusing character and personality into each space. All right, welcome to our library/playroom. This is the space where we spend the most of our time as a family. When we moved into this house, it was our formal dining room, and we knew that just was not going to function well in the stage of life that we're in with 3 little kids. So I transitioned it to a library with a bunch of hidden storage for the kids' toys. If you look in here, it looks like a pretty room from the outside looking in, but if you look inside the cabinets, they are full of, Hulk gloves and doctor supplies and floor's lava stepping stones. So this is really nice. It's where our kids play. It's where we regroup after the school day and unpack their backpacks and go through how their day was. I wanted to make sure that there was a seating area for my husband and I. We sit here multiple times a day. It is where we start our days. We open up the windows, have our coffees here, eat meals here, chat with the kids while they're playing on the floor. This here is a storage bench where I hide a bunch of my Thrifted goodies, especially the ones that I get while my husband's at work. It's like my secret hiding place in there. He never looks. So this is a really special place to us. Over here is a little peg rail that I added. It typically is full of kids' backpacks, so it's not as aesthetic as it is currently, but it's a great little drop zone for when they come in the front door. Shelving is full of 100% thrifted items. I don't think one thing on the shelves has been purchased at a retail big box store. I love collecting vintage books with really pretty spines. Anything like this wicker in rattan, I love the texture that it adds. I just recently purchased this floral painting for myself for Mother's Day because it's definitely the kind of flowers I prefer is through painting. So I love how it pops off of the blue. I think it's really pretty. So this corner of the room is one of my corners, Mom's corners. It is my desk. It's typically just full of kids' artwork and appointments that I have to make for the kids, but it's a good sitting space that's central to our home so I can still be with the kids and doing the things that I need to do. It was a really fun piece that I actually bought off Facebook Marketplace from a woman who lives in our neighborhood. So I love that it's an antique. I love that it still has the key that goes with it, and I can hide all of my mom stuff in there. This upholstery here, this bench seat and lumbar cushion, is something that I had custom made just because these are custom built in, so I needed to have something made. I love the brown gingham. It speaks really well to this vintage rug that I have and kind of grounds the space because everything else is so bold with the blue and obviously the painting. And so I like keeping those 2 things very neutral. And it's obviously cozy if you want to sit here, read a book, have a cup of coffee. I love lampshades that have this pleated fabric. You will see them all over my house. I don't want a boring lampshade. So this is really fun, and it's functional. It's on a little dimmer, and I love putting that on in the evenings. It creates a fun little ambiance. All right, next I'd love to take you into my kitchen. Welcome to our kitchen. This is the space that probably has undergone the biggest transformation since we moved in. When we purchased the house, all of this cabinetry was just oak builder grade cabinets. We had kind of like a beige laminate countertop. All of these floors were vinyl. I mean, who knows how old the flooring was. We did not have this range hood. It was just a microwave here on the wall. And here were upper cabinets. So the day that we moved in, and when I say the day, I mean 2 hours after we received the keys to the house, my husband and I and my mom and brother that were here helping, we got our drill and we removed all the upper cabinets that were on this side of the stove because I could not take it. There were so many cabinets. I wanted to change the feel completely. So we unscrewed them and threw them out on the curb. And then the same night, 12 hours after getting the keys, we took these cabinets and raised them to the ceiling. So I had this vision in my head that I wanted to make this builder grade, boring space something that felt custom without spending any money. So that was the challenge, is like I said, creativity loves constraint, and I was constrained. And so the cabinets used to be probably end right here, and it just had a bunch of open space at the top, unused space. So we unscrewed them, lifted them straight up and just screwed them right back into studs. And then I built this under cabinet open storage, which we absolutely love. And by we, it's me. It allows me to be pretty and display things, but it's also super functional. These are the dishes that we use every single day as a family. And it really gave us more storage by doing that, because when we lifted these cabinets and added this upper shelf, it allowed so much cabinet space above because all of our dishes are now on this open shelf. And then this might be the most controversial thing that I've ever done in the house. I found this pair of bookcases on Facebook Marketplace for $50 for the pair. And if you remember, I removed the upper cabinets over here. So it was just a blank space. And I found these shelves, these bookcases, and took them out to the front yard and sawed off the bottom so that it would be the correct height, placed them here, screwed them into the wall, and created custom cabinetry. I painted them the color of the cabinets so that they looked like they had always been there and they were meant to be there. I think they offer so much charm and character to the kitchen by being here. I'm really, really happy with them. I even put our microwave on them. You can see I drilled a hole through the side of the bookcases, and our little microwave has a perfect little home here. That was always a challenge for me because they do take up some counter space. Originally, our microwave was over on the other side of the countertop, and I just wanted to free that space so that we would have a lot of prep room when we are cooking. Yeah, I have a lot of fun styling these. It changes seasonally and for the holidays. It's really fun at Christmas time. I put a lot of red and green and vintage Santa Clauses. The kids get a big kick out of it, but it is extremely functional for us as a family and pretty. And then right off the kitchen is our dining area that we use. It made me feel more confident getting rid of our formal dining room because we had this space, which is just a casual eating space for our family. I wanted to make this space feel really special and cozy. So what I did is I stenciled these walls and did a lot of hand painted details on them, and I added the shiplap here on the bottom. I've added a chandelier that has really pretty fabric shades, and I think it gives it a lot of whimsical feel. So the artwork is a thrifted find. They're really pretty botanical prints. This artwork also changes quite a bit in this space seasonally, but because we're in springtime now, I really like to add something with a botanical subject matter. And then the table is perfect for our family. So we're a family of 5. It has a bench in the back here. So our 3 little kids typically sit at the back of the bench, which is really fun and functional for them. I love that this table has really a modern twist to it, just because I have traditional elements in the design on the stenciling, kind of gives a nod to kind of that cottage European style. And then this balances it out with more of a modern vibe. And then you have more of the cottage vibe with the chandelier and the pleated shades. So I think that's where my sweet spot is mixing different kinds of design elements. My personal style is a little bit tricky because it's a combination of a lot of things. It's very colorful, it's vintage, it's traditional, it's modern. I really struggle with trying to define my personal style, but I always start with patterns, wallpapers, textures, color, layers, anything just to infuse some personality into a once very dull home. And then right off of the dining area is our family room. We loved that this is all open. It's open to the kitchen. It's open to the upstairs, so I can always see and hear my kids at all times. This space, it was important to me to create a cozy space. We have 3 young kids. It needs to be cozy. It needs to have fabrics that are family friendly, nothing too pristine and special. Our sectional can easily fit all 5 of us, which we love. My husband insisted on an upholstered ottoman because we push it up to the sectional and put our feet up on it for movie nights. The fabric on the ottoman is actually a Goodwill find that I got for $3.99, and I reupholstered it just to bring some color and pattern into the space. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I wanted to add color through accessories and books, and so I never knew what to do with this big wall. It's a 2-story wall. It was very challenging for me the first couple years that we lived in this house. I experimented with a bunch of different furniture on this wall, and nothing really felt right. It always felt too small scale. So finally I came across this console system that has the flanking hutches, which I love because I have all of this hidden storage below, which once again is filled with kids' toys. So it's very accessible for the kids to easily get out, play here on the rug. But then it also has these glass hutches that I can display some things that bring me joy. So it's the perfect harmony between the two. Inside of the glass hutches, I have a thing for vintage books. Maybe it's a blessing, maybe it's a curse. I just cannot pass up beautiful spines and colors on vintage books. So I've started to run out of room. I might have to start putting some horizontally on top. But I really enjoy collecting these books and little trinkets that my husband and I have picked up during our travels. I want to make sure that I always balance out new pieces like the furniture with things that are old, vintage pieces. So in here, I always make sure I have really cool vintage decor and pottery and paintings. I also found my all-time favorite piece of art just this past year. This painting is by George W. Harvey. I had no idea who he was until I purchased it. It was $10 on Facebook Marketplace. On the listing, it looked to be a piece of art that maybe was an 8x10. And I told the seller, hey, I'm really interested in this. She had it listed for $10. I went to go pick it up and was pleasantly surprised that it was ginormous. And it was a real painting signed by George Harvey, which through a lot of Google research was a really famous painter. So it's a fisherman. He has a lobster cage, which I think is really cool because my husband is from New England and he lives and breathes lobsters. He loves lobster. And so it was just very serendipitous that this was a lobster cage, and I found it for $10, which is very exciting to me. So it's the main focal point when you walk through our front door. It's the first thing that you see. And then the sconces flanking either side, they are not functional, but they are pretty. I got these at an antique mall. I think they just add some character to a once very dull fireplace here. I painted this fireplace the same color as the trim that I painted throughout the house. I think typically you see the inverse where the walls might be beige and the trim work is white, and I did the opposite with kind of creamy walls and the trim being more of a grayish color. I think it adds a little bit of quirkiness. And then I love having vintage tables. So I have this really special table right here on either side of the sofa. I have vintage tables, which I think add a lot of character and personality. And like I said, I told you every room was going to have a pleated fabric lampshade, and this one does not disappoint. It's beautiful. I love the brown florals that are on it. This chair, my husband and I got early on in our marriage, and it was a splurge item, and he was very against it at the time, but I insisted on having a big leather chair, and so we got it, and now he has made me promise that I will never ever get rid of it because I am a serial rearranger. I move furniture in and out of our house very often, and this is one thing that has stuck with us for the last 10 years and probably will stick with us forever. He really doesn't care about anything in the house. He lets me have complete freedom to do whatever I want, but this is one of those things that are just non-negotiable. And then this wall is part of our family room. It's given me trouble for years since we moved in because it really is, it might be the most central part of our home. I feel like it's the hub of the home, and it had this horrible air return that was so hideous. And so I knew I couldn't cover the air return functionally, but I was able to create this custom cover on the air return so that it at least looks a little bit more intentional, a little bit more special. So now once I did that, I knew I wanted something on this wall, but it could not impose on the air return. So I found this floating wall table, which I really like how it has curves because this is one of our main hallways of the house. And with 3 little kids that are about this height, I wanted to make sure they weren't running into a corner. And it also adds, a modern touch. It has a modern vibe, which once again, I have paired with vintage books just, to bring it back down to reality. I like to have modern pieces with vintage pieces. This is a really pretty original painting that I found at an antique store. And I like to have little lighting throughout the house that's really nice in the evenings to put on. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with this thermostat that's totally messing up my aesthetic. But other than that, I'm very happy with how this little vignette has come together. So my career path, when out of college, I worked retail at Macy's in their executive development program for about 10 years, and I was severely uninspired. And so I met my husband, and he could tell that I was lacking that personal drive. And so he encouraged me to go back to design school, and I did that remotely while working other jobs, and just tried to follow my passion. And I had absolutely no portfolio, no experience with design, and a small firm in Cincinnati took a chance on me and hired me, and I worked there for a few years until my husband's job moved us here to Kentucky. And when he moved us here, I transitioned to a stay-at-home mom, which was wonderful, but I was absolutely seeking that creative outlet. So I started an Instagram page, which was totally out of my comfort zone. My youngest sister, which was cool and hip, helped me, nudged me into creating this space. And then that's how Maddox in the Middle, my Instagram page, blossomed, because I was just sharing my own DIY projects from home and just what I was doing anyway on a daily basis. They were all budget friendly. And then here I am 4 years later after starting that page and sharing what I do on a daily basis, and hopefully inspiring others, to infuse personality into their homes as well. Then from our family room, I'm gonna wrap you back around to the foyer. Our house, what I have come to realize, really creates kind of like a circle, and I only know that because my kids ride their bikes and their scooters inside the house on this circle that we've created from the playroom, the kitchen, the family room, and now into the foyer. It's the perfect racetrack for them. So the foyer, when we moved in, was a complete blank space. So it had these travertine tiles on the floor. All of the walls were cream, beat up, nothing on them, just plain drywall. The stairs were carpeted all the way up, and this was all oak wood on the banisters and the spindles. So this was another kind of creative thought that I had, because the ceilings, as you can see here, are 2-story ceilings. And when I walked in this space, I wanted it to feel special. It really is, it's not a grand foyer. It's actually quite small, but I wanted to pack as much personality as I could into this space. So it all started with this wallpaper. That was the starting point, the jump off point for this design. I love this wallpaper. We are in Lexington, Kentucky, which is horse country. So it's very fitting to have this equestrian paper. I really struggled with where I should stop the paper. I stopped it right at the mark where the first story ends and the second story begins. Just put a piece of trim work up there. I've never seen this done before. I'm sure that it has been done, but there was no way I was getting on a 2-story ladder and putting the wallpaper all 20 feet up in the air. So I created a stopping point visually and put this beadboard on the bottom half, which I think makes this space look a lot more historic than it actually is. I mean, this house was built in the 1990s. It has no history whatsoever. But I feel like by adding the wallpaper and the beadboard, it infused some history into it. And then I painted all of the doors and the trim and all of the stair railings this really rich, I call it Band-Aid color for lack of better term. But I feel like it feels really warm, like a warm hug when you walk in. I added these doorknobs. It used to just be those builder grade, brass doorknobs, but I think that these doorknobs here add a little bit of character. This is a hallway closet, so it's a good drop zone for our family. And then this goes into our laundry room and out to our garage. So we're constantly in this space all day long. I've always wanted a grand foyer table, and it's not doable in this tight space. But I was able to find this table here, which it's very shallow because this is our main entry point, and we need to be able to fit through. So I like that it's shallow, and I like that it has the curved edges again, which really mimics the one that I have over in the family room. No bumped heads from the kids, and it allows me to display some of my favorite things. Everything has been thrifted. I love the texture that wicker mirrors add. I found this really cool horse at a peddler's mall for $10, which, like I said, we're in horse country. So she's cute. I need to name her. But I love that. I love having a lamp here at night. Once again, I feel like lamps cozy up a space, so I add them wherever I can. And I have this little pocket change thing that I found thrifting. Usually we throw our keys in here and not so much change, but it is a good landing spot. And anything quirky that I can find, quirky little magnifying glasses, boxes, pretty books. The space changes and evolves a lot. It's definitely not a space that's stagnant. It just depends on my mood for the day. I can easily switch out my little tchotchkes that I have. My go-to design tip would be creativity loves constraint. So my constraint has always been budget. I don't have the money or the means to just buy whatever I want to design a beautiful home. So taking time in your house actually is a blessing. Like waiting and being patient to get those special pieces in your home will make your home collected and personal and special. All right, now we're upstairs and I'm going to take you into our daughter's bedroom. This is my favorite room in the house. It is like an enchanted forest. So my daughter's name is Iris, and she loves all things fairies, whimsical fairies. So I knew when I saw this wallpaper, she had to have it. It is the most whimsical thing that I think I've ever come across. It has bugs and birds and flowers, and of course the colors really spoke to me. She is just 6 years old and she loves all things color, pattern, bright, bold, and so I wanted to give that to her. So I started with the wallpaper and then went for a really pretty yellow trim, and then I knew that I wanted to do something special to her doors. So the doors were a special project for me. Iris was in her room as I was actively wallpapering it one day, and she said, "Mommy, can we paint my name somewhere?" And I was confused by the question because I knew I wasn't going to paint her name onto this wallpaper that I was installing at the moment. And so then I had the idea, why don't I just paint her name on the door, because that was special to her and it felt personal. So the door name evolved into a complete freehand painting project on the door, which then also translated to this door too. And I think it's become my favorite little hand-painted touch that I've done in the house. I've done a lot of stenciling and painting in the house, but this is a special project, and we always joke that when we move from this house one day, we're taking the door with us. But it makes her little 6-year-old heart happy, which makes me happy. We wanted to add a little bulletin board for her. It has a lot of her special mementos from school, and recitals that she's been in and notes that she's got from family. So that's really special to her. I also added some special touches inside of her closet. This space was a blank space, just white walls and wire shelving when we moved in. And so because it's a walk-in closet, I knew that I could make it something special and add a lot of fun little things. Because she's 6, she's little. So I feel like I could make a lot of little nooks in this space for her. The first one is this little vanity area with a mirror. She has a bunch of craft supplies in those boxes down there. She plays the ukulele. She loves unicorns. So it's a really fun, whimsical space for her to just be a little girl, which I love. She has had a newfound love of reading. She's in first grade and absolutely is obsessed with books. So I did this really shallow bookshelf in here. It only comes out from the wall about 3.5 inches, which is fabulous. It allows for a lot of her books to be on here. And then the closet rod technically is right here. It actually is still under there. It's the wire closet rod when we moved in, and I just built this cover to go over top of it, and then I lowered the closet rod for her to be at her height so that she can get herself dressed, because we all know when they get to that age, they become very independent. She wants to get herself dressed, so this allows her to have that independence. This side of the closet, all it was just wire shelves, and I handmade these little scalloped covers to go on top of the wire shelving, and I hand stenciled these flowers to bring in here as well. All of these baskets and bins hold all of her toys. You know, she has a lot of stuffies, a lot of mermaids, a lot of fairies. So this allows her to have a ton of toy storage. I added a little chandelier. It has a vintage feel to it there at the top, and a cozy rug with some fun scallops. There's also a fairy door. Like I said, she loves fairies and she truly believes that they are real. She leaves notes for them and presents for them. And then, you know, the fairies write her back on the notes as well. It's not me, but she communicates with them. And it's really fun for her. And then I have a full-length mirror in here for her as well. So that is the closet. And I will take you to the other side of her room now. For her bed, I found this headboard on Facebook Marketplace, and I think I love the spindles, that Jenny Lynn style. I painted it the same color as the trim worked so that it was cohesive. I wanted to add a bunch of fun color and prints on her bed with duvets and ruffles and gingham. Just the more pattern, the better. Pattern and color explosion. It brings her joy. So I love doing it. I have my signature lampshade here with the fabric and the colors. She uses this to read. It's really nice because it can move right over her when she's reading, and then she can position it back. I wanted to go with the theme of this being a secret garden. And so I found a lot of this stuff thrifting, this little bird cage, this original bird painting, and then even this little wicker house, which she has decorated with miniature little fairies and a little beehive, which I think is really darling. And then in this corner of the room is where either my husband and I sit at night when we're putting her to bed. There's another reading light that we added here. This table is usually full of Junie B. Jones books, which is her favorite series right now. She's just busting through them. This table's really special because I found it thrifting, and it has 4-leaf clovers that are carved into the sides, which I thought was such a cute little nod to the secret garden theme of her room. This dresser we've had since she was born. It was part of her nursery decor. I like that it's been able to grow with her as she ages, and it still works with the theme. I got her this recently. It's a little piggy bank. I think it's so darling because she loves to collect her money, and it goes with that little secret garden theme in here. And then of course we could not forget to add another fairy door down there at the bottom. She's even added her own little gemstones to decorate the door as well. So this space is really just a fun space for her to be a kid and to use her creative mind. And she loves it. It is truly a secret garden. All right, and now I'm going to take you across the hallway into my boys' shared bedroom. All right, come on in my boys' bedroom. So my boys are 5 and 3.5. They're 18 months apart, and they love sharing a room. They don't have to, but they do so by choice. They requested a treehouse room. So I said, say less, I can make that happen. I started with this wallpaper, which to me just screams treehouse. They're up in the trees. And then from there, I layered in vintage piece after vintage piece after vintage piece. I have always been very drawn to vintage tennis rackets, and it's very fitting because all of my kids play tennis and take tennis lessons, and so they love having those there. I found their beds on Facebook Marketplace, and it actually is a bunk bed. So they're meant to be stacked on top of one another, but I will tell you, we tried that for a little while, and my mom heart just doesn't feel secure with a little 3-year-old up on top of a bunk bed. If you know, you know, boys are rambunctious. So we separated the beds and made 2 separate spaces for them, which works really well. I was able to find the perfect little bookshelf that is low enough so it doesn't impede on the window here, but that they can add all of their books. They love tennis, they play tennis, so I found this really fun canvas art at the thrift store. And tennis is not the only sport that they love. I had to add in soccer and basketball. I feel like the theme in this room is not very cohesive because these little boys love everything. You know, they're just at that stage in life where everything brings them joy. And so I added there's a football, there's a basketball, there's a soccer ball, there's tennis. So then if you spin around to this side of the room, my son Maddox is obsessed with race cars, all things speed. So I found this at an antique mall, and I knew that I had to have this because he asks me every time we're in the car, Mom, what's the speed limit? How fast can we go? Can we go on the highway? So I thought that this was really cool. He loves it. And then underneath here, you'll see a little vintage plate. It says Lebanon, New Hampshire. That is where my husband is from. And I found that at an antique mall as well. So that's really cool because it's just, you know, a nod to my husband's childhood here in the boys' room. Of course, there's a basketball hoop. It's seen better days. I mean, every night it is a basketball dunk city here before they go to sleep. So this gets a lot of use. And then we have a little reading corner here with a lot of their favorite books and a really, really fun little library lamp and swivel chair. And then above the tennis rackets, you'll see a Cincinnati Zoo pennant, which is actually where I'm from. So born and raised in Cincinnati. It's only about 90 miles from where we live here, and we still have membership passes and take the kids to the Cincinnati Zoo all the time. So I found that at a garage sale for $2 and knew I had to have it. So a lot of these things just speak to my boys' childhood and what brings them joy. At the end of their bed, I got these matching ottomans that are the same print as the wallpaper, and they are their toy, their personal, you know how it is like with sharing with little toddlers. So they are their personal toy storage ottomans that they can put whatever is in there that is important and special to them, and no one else can touch it. So the last thing in this room that's really cool, kind of quirky, is this sign that says Maddox. It's an equestrian and kind of iron sign. A friend of ours had a house in her neighborhood that was being remodeled, and this was the sign on their mailbox. Maddox was their last name, and they were remodeling the house, and she mailed it to me because she knew that my son's name was Maddox. And how fitting that it has a horse on it, because this came from Texas, and she mailed it to us. And I think that it's really cool, kind of a unique touch next to his bed that he loves. It's really special to him. I would say what I love most about my home is our library / playroom. Technically, it's our formal dining room, and I knew with our season of life with 3 little kids, we weren't going to be using a formal dining room, so I did the built-ins and made it a clothes storage for all my kids' toys, and then a seating area for my husband and I, and we spend every day in there, from drinking our morning coffee, watching the kids play, talking to the kids after school. That is our main spot, and it's like our hub of the home. What gives a home a soul are thrifted objects, which is really silly to say, but that's how I created the home that I'm in now. It was not something that I purchased from a mass-produced big box store. It's those really unique items that nobody else has. Okay, and now we're gonna head back downstairs so I can show you the laundry room. So this is our laundry room. It's right off of our foyer, and it was a sad dungeon of a space when we moved in. You can tell it's windowless, it has no natural light, and it's small. But laundry is truly like, it is the thing that I do the most with 3 little kids, 6 and under. So I needed this space to bring me a little bit of joy. So I started with the wallpaper. I wanted to pick a wallpaper that had a really bright background to it. So I like how this has this creamy white background because it instantly makes the space feel brighter. And then I love all things botanical and colorful. So I knew that I wanted a classic print. I love the flowers and the block print on this wallpaper. And then the fun part came with the paint. I pulled the green and the rosy color out of the wallpaper to paint all of the pieces that are in here. This space, when we moved in, it was just a washer and dryer, and there were upper cabinets on this back wall that really served no function. They were just oak cabinetry, and we removed those as well. I feel like I went through a phase of just removing any and all cabinetry that was in my creative way. So remove that cabinetry, but I knew that I needed storage back here because we are a young family. We don't have a mudroom, so this is kind of a hybrid mudroom laundry room now, and I wanted it to look custom, but I don't have the money for custom. So like I said, creativity loves constraints, so I had to think in my head, how can I make something that looks built in, but is really cheap? So I found 3 pieces of furniture on Facebook Marketplace that were totally random, unrelated, from 3 different sellers, and I purchased all of them, and then I started creating a furniture puzzle. So the first piece I found was this chest of drawers, and then I found this, it's a cubby system, but it ended right here. So it was for like a preschool classroom that was no longer used. And this was shoe storage that I found from an old karate studio that was going out of business. So all in all, I bought all 3 pieces for under $100, but then I needed to cut them down to size to make it look like they were built in and they were always there, meant to be together. So I had to chop off the top of this dresser so that it would sit flush to the cubbies. And then I knew I needed to add some height to the cubbies because they were really low to the ground because they were meant for toddlers. So that's where this shoe storage came into play. It lifted it off the ground, about 18 inches so that the height was my height and it made more sense in the space. And then caulked and added some trim and then painted everything the same color so that it looks like it was always meant to be and it was always back here. And it offers so much storage for us. There's hooks, there's cubbies. I have all these baskets here. I have additional baskets here at the bottom. All of these drawers house hats and sunscreen and gloves in the winter. We have our community sock drawer, which I feel like we're always looking for socks with the kids so they can come and they can help themselves to whatever socks that they want. And then this peg rail actually is used for coats, when you come in, but I hang like towels and things that just need some extra dry time out of the dryer. I use this peg rail right here. So it's a tight space. You can see that it's very tight, but it's incredibly functional, which was my goal with this whole space. I also added this folding countertop because I do fold the laundry right when it gets out of the dryer. I'm one of those. So this allows me to not lose all little people's clothing in between the washer and dryer. It's very functional for us. And then I created this little shelf above the washer and dryer that just houses laundry detergent and dryer sheets and, a little lint basket and a couple of my pretty things. I also have a sconce in here with a really pretty printed shade, which I love. Just adds quirkiness and character. And then for the artwork, of course, something always vintage, always thrifted. I found a pair of these little numbered prints, which I think are really pretty. And then this bird art was just a piece of art that I ripped out of a book that I found at a thrift store and put in a thrifted frame. And I think the colors of it go beautifully with the wallpaper and just go with my overall arching theme in the house of birds and nature and flowers and color. So this space was once very boring and now it brings me a lot of joy, which I never thought I would say about a laundry room. What home means to me is a place where you can feel comfortable and be yourself. Homeworthy, it was so great having you at our house today, but it's time to go now. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.